Now, Liverpool, FC, Bayern. We've already talked about it briefly. Liverpool, of course, they've got a deep squad now, Didi. I mean, yesterday, Milner missing, and Gomez missing, Trent Alexander missing, and still, didn't start Henderson. Still, there's great depth in the squad now, and as long as the front three stay healthy, that's Salah, Mane and Firmino, who found a bit of form, I thought, yesterday after not doing so early in the season. Would I be right in guessing that Liverpool should be favourites to go through against Bayern, which is in no way to underestimate Bayern, but just to say that Liverpool are probably the best side in Europe right now?
Yeah, it's very hard to argue. Even though they didn't win their group, I agree with you. They, for me, are one of two or three of the most likely winners of the Champions League this year. Great going forward. You said they've got to stay fit. The front three, I would argue that maybe Van Dijk keeping fit is even more important.
Absolutely, he's been a huge. He's been huge, hasn't he, Didi?
They conceded 7 goals in the league. It's unbelievable. I've very rarely seen one player make such a big difference to a whole team, to a defence, the way he organises them.
Yes.
The way he wins his headers, his tackles. Very rarely you see them go down to the ground. Usually he's always in the right position. He's quick enough to be first to the ball. He's just a joy to watch. I don't think there's a better centre-back in the world at the moment, and I don't think there's been for a few years. We talk about Ramos as being the best, but I think Van Dijk's got really the potential for the next few years to be that dominating centre-back in the world. And they're a joy to watch. They're good going forward, solid at the back. They're the real deal, and they've got a squad. Last year they brought Lallana and somebody else on in the Champions League final, Emre Can. They hardly played for 3 months because they've been injured. Yeah. Now this year it's a different ball game. You mentioned Henderson not playing, Arnold out injured, Gomez out injured, Lallana's not been featuring. Milner didn't play yesterday, so you've got a squad of 22 players, and you can replace players with equally as good players. So Liverpool will be favourites, and they show in the Premier League week in, week out at the moment what a formidable side they are.
Now, when we think about Bayern Munich, we think about Lewandowski, of course, also about Ribéry and Arjen Robben, Alaba. Of course, but the Ribéry and Robben, for example, nobody doubts the quality, particularly of Robben, but age is a factor there, is it?
100%, and that's been part of the problem. Munich lost in Gnabry, a player who played for Arsenal a few years ago, who's really come on now and is turning into a class act.
Is he?
Gnabry,
good God.
Yes.
Is he playing for Munich?
Yes,
he's a pup.
Yeah, you will see him.
They got him cheap.
Yeah.
They got him cheap, didn't they? Because he'd done something outrageous at his previous club.
I'm not sure. Well, he went to Hoffenheim last year, did well, and he's really making a difference now in Munich.
Okay.
And Kingsley Coman, who's probably one of the I think he's with Sané, with Sterling, one of the best young wingers
right
in the world. Kingsley Coman, he's been a huge loss. He had a bad injury. He started playing again 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. So since he's back in the team, the performance has improved, the results have improved. Robben and Ribéry may play some part, but as you say, age is catching up with them. At the back, you've got Boateng and Hummels, who are in their 30s now.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty aging side, but it's a hugely experienced side. And I think this crop of players, I think they know that this is probably their last chance for some of these players to do it. Robben and Ribéry will probably both leave at the end of the season, and Hummels and Boateng, there's doubts about them as well. So I'm not sure how long they will be at the club. So in this formation, the way they are, these World Cup winners, Champions League winners, most of them for Bayern Munich, it'll be their last hurrah, their last chance to win a Champions League. Maybe that makes them a bit more dangerous, but you've got to say, I agree with you, Liverpool will go into the title favourites.
Now, just a question about Robert Lewandowski. I mean, a player who 2 seasons ago he looked like he was going to be the most potent striker in Europe. Yet he hasn't quite delivered, has he? There was talk of him going to Madrid. It didn't happen. How is he doing? And again, age might be a factor with him. It's about 30 now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still one of the best, if not the best, number 9. I feel he's had a disappointing World Cup. Not for the first time in a Poland shirt. He didn't really do it.
Yes.
But he scored in the group stage. I think he scored 8 goals. I think he's the first player, or German player, or Bayern Munich player, who scored that number of goals in the group stage. So he's he would have scored over 20 goals already again in competitive games. But what they held against him last year, that in the games against Real Madrid, he didn't really do it. He had a few chances and he missed them. And, there's people expect outrageous things of him because he's that good.
Yes.
And he can't always live up to these expectations. But
he's a player
there was a bit of a rumour that...
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the Real Madrid story, that was manufactured by him or by his management team. So I'm not sure whether Madrid wanted. He's a controversial figure because he doesn't really mix with any teammates.
Really?
He's a bit of a loner in the team. He doesn't mingle. He doesn't mix with them. And sometimes when things don't go well, when he don't score, the mood is that, well, we do everything for him. When things don't go well, is he actually doing enough for the team when he doesn't score? But he's still there, and he's certainly one to watch out. But in Van Dijk, he'll have the hardest opponent you can have at the moment.
Yeah, and of course, from a Liverpool perspective, Didi, he's a threat that will have to be very carefully watched. Just in passing, I used to have a close German friend who told me they didn't like Poles.
No, we do.
Okay, you're not going there.
I do.
You're not going on.
Jersey Dudek won us the Champions League in Liverpool.
Of course,
so
that's
I
right.
love them.
Okay, and another person, a former colleague of yours, Luis Garcia, made the draw for the Champions League today, and of course he was a Liverpool player, and a colleague of yours.
That's right. Yeah, Luis played an instrumental role. He scored a lot of goals in that Champions League campaign.
Yes.
He scored against Juventus. He scored a win against Chelsea that people still say may not have been over the line.
Yes.
He was an integral part of our team, and I think he ended up the top scorer for us. He knew where the goal was.
I should say to you, incidentally, thinking about Rafa Benitez there and your earlier revelation that you didn't have much choice but to take the first penalty. He said last week that you were one of the most tactically aware players he'd ever worked with. I'm sure you saw that, but if you didn't, you might get a game for Newcastle in the near future.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't see it, but I take it as a compliment.
The other last thing I should say is that for this round of 16 in the Champions League, VAR, the video assistant referee, is going to be in place. I welcome that very, very much. I've been a strong advocate for a very long time that we need this evidence to make sure we get the right results. What's your take on it? What's your feeling about it?
Well, there's still controversy in Germany. They did some good things. They did some
Is
bad
it
things.
operative in the Bundesliga?
Is it what?
Is it operating in the? Is it operating?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we've been operating for 18 months now.
Oh, okay.
But the controversy or the discussion hasn't become any less, David. And you've got to see it on a weekly basis to really judge or to really have an opinion about it.
Right.
I'm still not sure because I can understand, I can accept if a referee makes a mistake. But if there's 3 or 4 people sitting in a cave in Cologne and they come up with a wrong decision, then I can't accept it. And as I said, the discussions haven't become any less. I understand when people say we need something. I think the way we do it at the moment in Germany is not the way forward because a lot of decisions are not black and white, and there will always be people who say either this was a pen or wasn't a pen. It only takes one person to have a different opinion, and you've got all the discussion again. And the other thing is, what I would say, I don't think UEFA should have brought it in a competition that's already 6 months old. Okay. I think that's wrong, because if we had it in the group stages, potentially there could be different teams in the last 16 now.
Okay.
So to bring it into a competition halfway through, I don't think is right.
No, and I mean, you have to say about soccer, of all the sports, even this, which is potentially a good idea, they haven't done it the right way. And for example, fans in the stadium during the World Cup didn't get the pictures that we were getting at sitting in television studios. There were people sitting at home. And if there is to be any virtue in this, it should be that the fans are seeing exactly the same pictures as the people who are making the decisions. That's one law.
But that seems to be a big problem when you hear or when you speak to people. I think people. Well, in Italy you've got it. We have it for 18 months. They had a test phase the year before, but I think we went into the whole thing pretty unprepared, and I think it showed. And I think they lost a lot of sympathy, because I think a lot of people, or the majority of people, were open to it, but the way they brought it in, I think they lost a lot of credibility, and I think they went in underprepared.
Yeah,
they never thought about it enough before bringing it in, we just need to see where it's going to go now.
Yeah, okay, Didi, it's great to speak to you, particularly on this subject, given your amazing, distinguished record in the Champions League. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked my two earlier guests, John Giles and Liam Brady, both of whom sat on the fence very firmly. Manchester City or Liverpool to win the Premier League? I'm saying Liverpool. They're saying it's too early to call it, or you never know, injuries, I think Liverpool, they have a stronger defence. What do you think?
Well, I think it's safe to say it's a two-horse race. So I think it'll be one out of the two.
Well done, Didi. I'll ask the lads to make room on that fence.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if one wins the Premier League and the other one wins the Champions League. I think that's, for me at the moment, the most likely scenario.
That's a very good bet you've just given me there. Liverpool to win. I don't think, I have to say, Didi, Manchester City have the same chance of winning the Champions League as I have of winning the Nobel Prize for Peace. They will get slaughtered as soon as they. I hate to think, but
they've got to buy into the last 8 now.
Yeah, that's true.
Liverpool got a tough game.
Yeah,
the chance that Liverpool's going out in the last 16 is far greater than Manchester City going out.
Yeah.
But I can hear you. If you see Liverpool at the moment, if you watch them play, at times I think who can beat them? Who is going to beat them?
That's right.
And obviously injuries, and it's hard to see. The only question mark is they've been in that position before. They've been to 3 finals with the manager. They lost them all. Yeah. They probably should have won at least 2, maybe all 3.
Yeah.
So that's the question. But I don't think there's any doubt that they're far better equipped. They've got a bigger strength and depth. And I think the first 11 is far better than it was last season.
Yeah, and I think defending is huge. And if Gomez, Van Dijk, Robertson and, say, Milner were the back 4, or Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's a little bit suspect defensively, they'd have and the goalkeeper, they'd have a better defence than Manchester City. And there's one other factor in this equation. Then I'll let you go, Didi, because I know I'm indulging myself. I think that last 3 or 4 games Liverpool have played, that very narrow, hard-fought victory over Everton in the derby. The Napoli game, where again, hard-fought, difficult. And yesterday, giving Manchester United a goal, hadn't beaten Manchester United in their last 8 encounters, and then coming out and doing that with Shaqiri in the last. We didn't mention him, incidentally. Shaqiri, a former Bayern Munich player, getting those 2 goals. I think those tough games that go to the wire, you gain something from them as a group, a belief. And I don't think Manchester City have been in those kinds of situations, and I don't know if they'd have that quality if they were.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with you there. There was always something which Liverpool was lacking or people questioned.
Yes.
When the going gets tougher, they've got the fight to really stick their necks out and do it. But I agree with you 100%. At the moment, City doesn't really need to do it because they win the game so convincingly.
Yeah.
And they still have to answer the question when it does get tough.
Yes.
Have they got a bottle? Have they got a fight to do it? So, no, I can't disagree with you. And Liverpool look the real deal at the moment. And at times when I do see them play, I can't imagine or I can't think of many, if any, teams who can take them close, especially over two legs. I think in a one-off final, anything is possible.
Yes.
But I think over two legs, they are very, very tough to beat.
Okay, Didi, thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure always to talk to you. I think your suggestion that Manchester City might win the Premier League and Liverpool the Champions League or vice versa might be a good bet. And the other good bet I think we'd both recommend to our listeners who like a bet, Atletico Madrid are 22-1 to win the Champions League. They're giving money away there, aren't they, Didi?
Oh,
22 to 1?
A better draw. Yeah, but if they have a better draw than Juventus, Juventus is probably half the price or even less. The price is, I'd rather back Atletico because they're probably twice or three times the price as Juventus. But I would have liked a bit of an easier draw. I think Juventus is tough not to crack this season. Okay.